Hi everybody, this is Roland LaRucci doing another episode of Ready Speaker. Today we're doing a film review, and the film today is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Now this stars Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek, Harvey Guillén. He plays Guillermo on What We Do in the Shadows. Great series, one of my favorites. Florence Pugh, Olivia Colman, a lot of good actors. John Mulaney, who I enjoy. So it's an animated feature from Dreamworks. It's on the fairy tale character, or fable character, Puss in Boots, Cat in Boots, swashbuckler. And this is, I guess, I don't know if this is the third installment. I think it's the third installment. It's an hour and 42 minutes. It's actually done really, really well. I think it's made a lot of friggin' money. I think like $340 million globally, something like that. So somewhere above the 300 mark. So as of February 2023, that's, I think, a great amount of money. And I will say that out of these animated films, it's kind of refreshing. It definitely sets the bar really high for the animated films, purely CGI generated, computer generated animated films that are happening. It definitely pushes away from the Pixar world a little bit and sort of melds with Disney action. I mean, it's over the top a little bit. The characters exaggerated. This is a Shrek Fable universe story, a continuation of that. So there's a lot of references in it. Here in this, well, the theme for this film is that Puss in Boots finally has reached the end of his lives. He's died 8 times, and now death is coming to get him for his 9th life in Cat World. I'll tell you, it puts a smile on your face, this movie. There is something about this movie, the tempo, the rhythm, the art, the voices, the lines, the script, everything. It just puts a smile on your face throughout the entire movie. It starts very much like an over-the-top, almost musical number, and he's a very, exaggerated character. Just a less creepy Pepe Le Pew. Well, actually, no sense of that. Just in the ego of Pepe Le Pew, but not towards the female, the female in the story, which is played. I think that's Kitty Softpaws. I think that's her character name, and that's Salma Hayek. She does a great job as well. They play over each other really, really well. I think all of the story wraps up really nicely. You have Goldilocks. Florence Pugh is Goldilocks, and the 3 bears work with her to find the last wish that's put in the dark forest. And I think that's probably the thing about this movie, is there's so many parts that are familiar from other films or stories that we know of. It's very, what is it? It's very Lord of the Rings, where they're going for that one thing at the end. I know they made a reference of another film in the trivia, but to me, it's very Lord of the Rings with Puss and Boots being Frodo, and Perito being Sam, just following that character. Now, Puss in Boots is elevated to a lead in the sense of getting the girl and wanting to get the girl, and everybody sort of after them and having these special powers, much less than sort of just falling into it and giving the task and running with it. So I think it's a little bit different in that sense. But there's definitely that. There's elements of Harry Potter being chased through the dark forest, and this thing chasing him constantly in the shadows, which is Lord of the Rings too. Frodo goes, puts on the ring, and all of a sudden he sees everything coming after him, and that sort of happens here with death and death chasing Puss in Boots. And then you have John Mulaney as Jack Horner, who doesn't sit in the corner because he's a big boy now. He's not a little boy, and he's an angry, I would say entitled brat, sort of a depiction of the worst things that could be in modern culture in this century, of somebody who has it all but wants everything still, and will take down anything, and has no regard for any other person or living thing around them. And it's kind of this arrogance, I guess. I mean, it's a common thing now. It's a common thing in culturally everything, the way the world is sort of building out. But that is so heightened and in a visual way, in a character-driven way, and in a voice way, that it's really interesting to watch how it plays through. Some of the scenes are, the way they're drawn, are reminiscent of anime type influenced art that came through. Definitely some stuff like Powerpuff Girls, or the Adult Swim series that was animated and really hot a few decades ago, like 10 years ago, so 10 maybe 15 years ago. But that kind of style creeps into this. The Spideyverse film is also very reminiscent of this kind of style of exaggerated colors. Definitely world creating, where there's depth and movement in almost every shot. And that's what I found really interesting about this film, is that the way the animation was done, you're kind of traveling through the story, and it's not just being played out in front of you. So you constantly push the different levels of visualization, detail, and sometimes just brightness. It just explodes all over the screen, and you're like, wow, you're in a different element, and it just matters, and it moves the story forward. There's also elements of even Wizard of Oz, of following the little yellow brick road, which I think is probably a common thing in fairy tales, of following the path, and Hansel and Gretel with the breadcrumbs, and I guess all that kind of stuff. So it's more likely a common theme in fables. But here it works really well, and like I said, they're pulling things from other sources, and you can watch the movie, you can pin them out. Like I said, Oz and Wizard of Oz and Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings are just three things, but there's a lot of little play with influences from the modern culture in America, and English-speaking films, and animation overall, but as well as fantasy, and pulling it into that. It's really gone above and beyond, I think, trying to pull in those stories and making a cohesive story. And like I said, the animation is really impressive. Much like we were talking about with Pinocchio, that came out also. I think they brought a new level to stop motion. This brought a different kind of level of not the detail or the realism that you kind of want with a lot of films, or at least where people think it's going. It definitely is an animated thing with exaggerated features and fable, and not meant to be real. And it just digs its heels in that. And there are moments when the detail is really awe-inspiring. There's fur on the bears, there's whiskers on Puss in Boots, and other cats and other creatures there, and you're just looking at it, and it's really amazing. Then they have a giant that gets woken up, and then that style changes dramatically, and it's still impactful, it still plays well in the story, and that's the really interesting part, because a lot of times when you do things like that, the pieces sort of don't jive together, and the world laws or rules break, and you kind of get distracted by it. Whereas in this film, I think it pulls you along, and it makes you go further into the story, and it really makes you listen and watch at what's happening. Perito, as the dog, is really great. He's the conscience of the story. He's the one who's looking at things from an honest perspective, not a vanity-driven perspective, or egotistical or profession or anything. He's just looking at it, just living life, and his perspective really just bleeds out to everybody else, and they take that in, and that changes everybody. And that's the arc that you're going to get in this, is how do you change to be happy with your lot in life. Maybe not content, or like, hey, let me just sit here, but the way your path is going, that's the way it's going. That's sort of the way it's meant to be, and you work with it. You work with that instead of fighting it. And I think that's probably the story of this film, is that you work with what's given to you. You don't try and cheat it, but you work with what's given to you, and you sort of enjoy where you are, and again, trying to be a good person. That's probably a big theme. And this is, as well, is that the goal is to be a good person, to care about other people and let them be part of your life, never to be alone. I think that was one really important part of the story, where Puss in Boots realized that he was alone. Even though in the beginning he's proud because he fights alone, he does things alone, he's a hero alone, but he's always alone. And that stuck with that character, and now he's no longer alone. He has friends, and he has companionship, and everything else that goes along with that, and it makes him a stronger person, able to fight death in the end scene, and to really look at it straightforward, rather than cowering from it. And they do play up that cowering thing. They play up the animal side of these talking animals quite often, and then they mix it so well with a talking animal of them doing very doing things that a human being would do. And I think they do a really great job of it. A lot of times it's a miss. A lot of times it just feels forced, or it's just too jokey. And there's a lot of jokes in this. There's a lot of things where it keeps you smiling. to the whole thing, and just the way they interact, the throwaway lines, which I love in comedies, when people or a character just says a line so fast, throws it away, and no one even needs to acknowledge it. It just happens and it's out there. And that's kind of fun to me, because people get lost. Sorry, creaky chair. People get lost in all these little details of distractions, but that just goes and you're on to the next line, goes and you're on to the next event. And I think that is really, really exciting to me when I see something like that. When I see something like that, I enjoy it. I get a kick out of it, and I think it sort of just works so well. And here they really took it to a good level. I think there's a lot of production houses now have to catch up to this kind of storytelling. It's not something people are talking about, but again, I think the budget here. In fact, if I can find it here on IMDb, I could have swore it was insanely good. You know, and the 7.9 on IMDb rating. Not sure about Rotten Tomatoes, but that's fairly okay. I think it actually deserves a little bit higher than that, but that's just me. And let me see if the audience rating 4.8. That's actually, I don't know where that's from. That's some review, some audience reviews or something like that. But let me see if I can find where it is. Let me see budget. Let me see if I can find budget here. But I think it was like 50 million. The budget was this. I'm just trying to look here. Actually, the Puss in Boots was 130 million. That was the budget. Wow, 50 million. I don't know what I was thinking. 50 million, 130 million, which is probably stupid. You know, cheap or expensive. I don't know. Shrek was 120. Shrek 2 was 125 million. Shrek 1 was 60 million. Puss in Boots, I think the second one. No, the last Witch was not. This is 90 million. 90 million USD. I don't know. It's a rough thing. Now it also lists here that they made 555 million box office USD, which I think is insane. Is that the right? Yeah, that's what it says. That's crazy. That doesn't seem right. No, that doesn't seem right. I think we have to see where it's probably a different thing. I saw 340, but I don't want to go off too much on that. I don't know if that's really that relevant. I think it's a great film. I think definitely watch it. You can watch it with young kids. I don't know if they'll get all the lines, but the visuals they will get, and the jokes they land pretty good. They land on their feet. They don't land too hard. They don't land too soft. So you can get the jokes, and you might have to explain some things. But that's okay. I think that's what parents do when they watch a film with their kids. You can watch it with older kids. My kids are a lot older. Actually, they're in their 20s, and we had a chuckle watching it. I think it was a very good feel-good movie that people need right now. There just aren't that many coming out that are really just movies that make you smile. And I think this is one of those movies that just makes you smile. It makes you really, really enjoy the characters, enjoy the dialogue, enjoy the intent of the story, and enjoy the delivery of it. And you walk away, maybe you've seen it twice. I saw it twice. I liked it. So that's my review for Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I think it's a great film. I think you should definitely take the time to watch it. I think now it's only a pay thing online, but it should be coming free streaming soon. But definitely watch it. Even rent it if you can, if you want to. I think it's again. I think it's one of the best films this year. Again, there's a lot of good films this year. Surprisingly so. You think there's not that much out there, but there are actually some really, really good films, and this is definitely one of them. Give it a shot. It's a different kind of animation. I think it will surprise you. I think you will enjoy it. It's not too long, not too short. There is a real story. It has a beginning, middle, and end, and I think the end lands pretty solid. I love all the voice acting. I think that's really good. Some of the animation is amazing. Some of the animation is just, really comfort food, where you're used to it, and it just makes you feel good inside. And there are some details that just make you say, wow, how'd they do that? And the choices are there. Choices are good. So again, this is Roland Ready Speaker, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Watch it. I think it's a great film. I think you should give it definitely a chance. Maybe watch it a couple of times. Watch it with the family. I think it's great. And come back and subscribe, like, share my show, please. I'm trying to get more subscribers on here. I want to do more and more reviews, and the more audience I get, the more feedback I get. I would love it. Even if you want to be on the show, if you want to talk about a movie, let's watch a movie. Maybe we'll watch one together, and then we'll take notes, and then we can have a discussion about it. Love to have that discussion. I'd like to see someone on the show with me, and we can talk about things, and that'd be great. So I leave every show with one comment. It's Be happy when you live a full day and you can put your head on the pillow, and be happy when you wake up the next day to start a new day. I had a rough 2022. Don't have to talk about it anymore. We're in 2023, and I'll stop mentioning this soon. But that's my belief. That's how I'm trying to live my life, and I hope you live your life the same way, and I think we'll all be better for it.